So the breaking news today, if you want to call it that, is it's just simply not good. Not in any way, shape, or form. Trump's FBI Mar-a-Lago visit, as they want you to call it, just took an ominous turn as the FBI and DOJ released bombshell statements. We're going to cover what that means, and it's a context different than what you may think. Now, I dug deep, making sure we covered everything that's been released. I've been on top of this story from the beginning. Yesterday, one of my largest videos ever created. So I thank you for everyone new who's now joined because you appreciate real journalism. And I'm going to show you what real journalism looks like and what non-realism looks like. Two very different things. I promise you that, and I'm going to prove it out right here as we cover a statement released that nobody can afford to miss because it goes to paint the larger narrative. Now, before I get there, if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, and so many of you did yesterday, thank you so much. I hope you'll take just a few minutes to do that. Put a membership platform up here on YouTube so you can help to support me to be able to continue to bring you this information. Monthly discount code when you sign up, Real Journalism. That's right, just put in Real Journalism, $3.99 a month for 2 years. We're all facing the recession together, and I want to see you through that. So again, Real Journalism monthly checkout, but now let's get back to this story. So remember I told you, real journalism and non-reality, at least in my opinion. This article published by Politico, a mole, pretextual, planted evidence, Trump world rife with theories about the FBI search, which, great headline, right? Except the mainstream media itself diffuses everything within the article. So I'm going to paint what's happening here through the context of this article. Follow me. You'll see quickly how this all takes form. In the wake of news that FBI agents executed a court-authorized search warrant. Again, you can't say the raid word. I guess the appropriate one is court-authorized search warrant. At Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago residence in Florida, Trump allies and aides have begun buzzing about a host of potential explanations and worries. Among those being bandied about is that search was a pretext to fish for other incriminating evidence. They're listing out the conspiracy theories here, as they're calling them. That the FBI doctored evidence to support its search warrants and then planted some incriminating materials and recording devices at Mar-a-Lago for good measure. And even that the timing of the search was meant to be historical echo of the day President Richard Nixon resigned in 1974. I can't stand personally that storyline. Trump world is no stranger. This is one of their opening paragraphs now. Even conspiratorial. I'm sorry, let me reread that. Trump world is no stranger to being deeply suspicious, even conspiratorial. But the speculation sparked by the FBI search has taken on a different scope, coming amid a combination of anxiety that so-called deep state is out to get the former president, and a dearth of public information about the Bureau's action. Well, yeah, I guess. Except for when you go into mainstream media sources that diffuse the very argument you're bringing forth. Remembering the Steele dossier, proven completely fake. So I wonder why people are a bit concerned. Let's put this in context, shall we? The Russian analyst who was the source for the Steele dossier, arrested and charged with lying to the FBI. There's a legitimate reason why people are concerned. The group accused of plotting to kidnap Michigan Governor Whitmer was riddled with FBI informants who took leading roles. History, history, history. Very important when you're covering a story. The Mueller report finds no evidence of Russian collusion. Well, it appears history has shown us that conspiratorial thought in that matter was proven in this time to be, well, accurate. So I wonder why they continue to question it. Well, there's a lot of this storyline they have to work on. Going back to the Politico article now, Trump confidant who served in the Trump administration was marked by attacks he waged on career officials and an acrimonious exit. Okay, who are they talking about? They're talking about Michael Caputo. If you remember the history of him, Trump health aide, pushed bizarre conspiracy and warned of armed revolt. He did. Made outlandish and false accusations on Sunday that career government scientists were engaged in sedition in their handling of the pandemic. Left-wing hit squads were preparing for armed insurrection after the election. Well, I guess certain things at certain times. As Fauci took the field, I guess, public opinion appears there, at least in that stadium, to have changed. Michael Caputo, well, wonder how he feels about that clip now. There is no evidence that the Department of Justice did anything improper. He is at liberty to disclose the warrant. Trump is at liberty to disclose the warrant. Let's not talk about the FBI, which I'm going to show you here in a second. Only 2 of his attorneys were present during the search, and they said they were barred from supervising while the agents retrieved files. Okay. Newsweek article. Exclusive. An informer told the FBI what docs Trump was hiding. Huh. Conspiratorial. The effort to keep the raid low-keyed failed. What a spectacular backfire, says the justice official. From the Department of Justice. What a spectacular backfire. I told you, bombshell statements released all day long. You just got to get them in the right context to fully comprehend what's happening here. I know that there's much speculation out there. This is a political persecution, but it is really the best and worst of bureaucracy in action, the official says. They wanted to punctuate the fact that this was a routine law enforcement action, stripped of any political overtones, and yet they got the exact opposite. Oh, they certainly did. There is no evidence that the Department of Justice did anything improper. He's at liberty to disclose the warrant, though he has not been provided the underlying affidavit. Not that the FBI could disclose the warrant. No, Trump has to, of course. Only 2 of his attorneys were present during the search, and they say they were barred from supervising while the agents retrieved files. So let's go into a court document here just released. United States vs. Sealed Search Warrants, August 11, 2022. Oh, that was updated today, as a matter of fact. The judge requests within here, and I'll make it a little bit larger, paperless order. Even make it larger for you. On or before 5 p.m. Eastern Time on August 15th, the government shall file a response to the motion to unseal the very document that they're blaming Trump for not unsealing. I know, confusing, isn't it? The response may be filed ex parte and under seal as necessary to avoid disclosing matters already under seal. So you think Trump and his team want to step on a court edict? Of course not. More information may soon be available. No, it's already available. Judge Bruce Reinhart, the magistrate who signed the warrant, and of course the Justice Department to respond by Monday to efforts by media outlets and advocacy groups to unseal the document. How dare they? I don't know why people are concerned about a conflict of interest with Judge Reinhart. I generally ignore the president-elect tweets, but not this one. John Lewis arguably has done more to make America great than any living citizen. Last August, I took my son to Edmund Bridge in Selma so he can understand the kind of courage and sacrifice required to live in a democratic society. John Lewis embodied that spirit, although I've never met him. He is one of my heroes. Thank you, Robert Reich, for saying what many of us feel. John Lewis is conscious of America, is the conscience of America. Donald Trump doesn't have the moral stature to kiss John Lewis's feet. Now, definitely no conflict of interest there, right? According to Newsweek, Reinhart spent more than 11 years as assistant U.S. attorney, but ceased to be a federal prosecutor on January 1st, 2008. The next day, Reinhart began working as a defense attorney for one certain Epstein employees. Judge who okayed Mar-a-Lago raid was an Obama donor. Judge who signed Trump warrant, represented Democratic lawmaker accused of putting mistress on payroll. And of course, the all quintessential example, Florida judge recused himself in the case of Trump versus Hillary Clinton concerning the Russia collusion hoax. Here is the actual recusal itself, signed by none other than Bruce Reinhart. I, again, can't understand why anybody would have any questions of this. You see, don't question anything, don't have evidence, but we do here. In the absence of that information, however, Trump allies have begun pushing conspiracies. I don't know what else I can show, folks. I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad you pay attention to details. I give you the details, so when you have these arguments with other people, you have your facts in order, as we do. It's why not many people will engage in an argument with us. Oh no, they know their stuff. But the more aggravatingly pushed theory by Trump allies, evidence might have been planted by the FBI on the premise. The chatter was fed in part by 2 mainstream articles. The 2, one in Axios and the other in Newsweek, suggested that someone in Trump's orbit had flipped. Okay, so we're calling it conspiracy on one. Here's the one big thing. Trump world suspects a flipper. That's what started this on Axios. Trump world is abuzz with speculation, again, about which close aides or aides have flipped. So they started it. Wall Street Journal comes out right after FBI quest for documents started with breezy chats towards a crowded closet. In the following weeks, however, someone familiar with the stored papers told investigators there may still be more classified documents outside the 15 cases already turned over, but don't worry, there's more to that story also because they'd already been cooperating about the additional material, but that didn't stop this, did it? And Newsweek, I guess we could put up another mainstream source. Exclusive, an informant told the FBI what docs Trump was hiding, so you wonder why people are bringing up this storyline. I'm just showing you. This isn't conjecture. This is evidence. This is proof. Rand Paul comes out. A U.S. senator comes out saying the same thing. This is not exhausting. This is actually exhilarating because I've never seen this clear-cut of an example of how they are so unorganized right now they can't even keep their story straight. In the aftermath, the former president took calls from allies and lawmakers in Capitol Hill who encouraged him to expedite his jump into the 2024 presidential race. Now, doesn't that not the reaction they wanted? Is that not what they wanted to happen? Of course, but it's going to. Because it's appearing easy to see that now. That there's an air of desperation around this entire thing. And when Merrick Garland starts to attack the FBI, is that covering for one's tracks, or is that truly, what the heck did we just do? Well, that's right. The Department of Justice official came out and said, well, that really didn't turn out the way we thought. I showed that to you earlier, but I continue. I continue with this thought that you should have here. It's abundantly clear, him running in 2024, and it's abundantly clear that they fear him running in 2024. For those of you new to my channel, I don't edit out things that are just common errors. Hope you don't mind that. We're all human. And are searching relentlessly for anything that might prohibit him from being a candidate. But it's not just a loss of power that they fear. The only thing they value above power is self-preservation. Very important statement there. That will come into focus as we continue on to part 2 of this video. Information I know better not to put on public platforms because of the repercussions that it already had on someone who put it on public platforms. Trump will have a vendetta, and it's highly likely he'll use his power to enact revenge on members of the Democrat Party. This doesn't just mean he's going to fire people. It's likely he's going to launch investigations with the aim of exposing their darkest secrets. The type that costs a lot of money and may land you in prison. That's the fear that many are thinking these departments have. So we're going to continue, put that in more focus for you here so you understand exactly what's occurring on all these headlines you see splashing around. Trump's Save America PAC released a new political ad linking the search to New York Attorney General, Attorney General James, and her civil investigation of Trump into the January 6th investigation. So everybody's saying he pleaded the fifth. He must be guilty. You see, this just goes to put into focus everything we've been saying. If you had nothing to hide, you wouldn't have to plead the fifth. But then why would the fifth exist? Just putting it black and white for you. There's a very good reason it exists, because if you believe you're going to self-incriminate yourself against a force that has already shown how they feel about you.
Bring him down! His days are numbered!
Beating Donald Trump. Nothing else matters.
What is fueling my soul right now is Trump.
You definitely assume we're going to be a real pain in the ass.
I can't see why he would have pleaded the fifth. I mean, makes no sense at all, does it? Yes, it's that easy. It's that exposed. It's that in your face now. I will be shocked if a Republican majority doesn't pursue a 21st century church committee out of this. That's where I think this is going. And that's what they fear. That would have huge implications for so many within the establishment. I do think there have been enough examples of politicization in institutes. That's the most abundant statement I've read recently. Trump ally Representative Scott Perry says FBI seized his cell phone one day after the Mar-a-Lago raid. Well, maybe there's no connection there to this saga. Wait now. Representative Scott Perry filed articles of impeachment against Merrick Garland? Wow, everything quickly unfolding, isn't it? The information has been requested centered around U.S. Scott Perry in the effort to seek alternate electors. Now we get a little bit closer to the truth, at least where the mainstream media is starting to turn this entire investigation about a hunt for alternate electors. Interesting storyline. So let's go ahead and take that further, shall we? Because they've already talked about it. This was on Slate. Many Trump electors facing criminal referrals were just following precedent. Could that be what the FBI was looking for? Trump legal team was in talks with the Department of Justice this spring over records stored at Mar-a-Lago. This is where the story really starts to take focus. Do you know they already were cooperating? There was no need for what did they say? Search with a warrant? An informer told the FBI what docs Trump was hiding. Back to this Newsweek article, it really tells you quite a bit. FBI decision makers in Washington and Miami thought that denying the former president a photo opportunity or a platform for which to grandstand would lower the profile of the event. Well, so much for that idea. A senior Justice Department official who is 30-year veteran of the FBI stated, "They were seeking to avoid any media circus," says the second source, a senior intelligence official who was briefed on the investigation and the operation. So even though everything made sense bureaucratically, I love that statement, and the FBI feared that the documents might be destroyed, they also created the very firestorm they sought to avoid in ignoring the fallout. Let's take that further. The road to the raid began a year and a half ago. Now, this is what you need to know. This will just completely boggle your mind. When the transition from the Trump administration to that of President Joe Biden, there were immediate questions raised by the National Archives and Records Administration as to whether the presidential records turned over to the federal agency for historic preservation were complete or were not. In February, archivist David Ferrero testified before Congress that his agency began talking with Trump people right after they left office, and the Trump camp had already returned 15 boxes to the archives. Ferrero said that in those materials, the archives discovered items marked as classified national security information, unleashing further inquiries as to whether Trump continued to possess classified material until you see a release that I'm going to show you on part 2 of this broadcast. The senior Justice Department source said that Garland was regularly briefed on the Records Act investigation and that he knew about the grand jury and what material federal prosecutors were seeking. He insisted, though, that Garland had no prior knowledge of the date and time of the specific raid, nor was he asked to approve it. Do you believe that? I know it's hard for people to believe, says the official, but this was a matter for the U.S. Attorney and the FBI. Till I tell you this. Questions grow about Trump's raid after revelation of grand jury subpoena. Extensive cooperation. 2 months before his Florida home was raided by the FBI, former President Donald Trump secretly received a grand jury subpoena for classified documents belonging to the National Archives and voluntarily cooperated by turning over responsive evidence, surrendering security surveillance footage, and allowing federal agents and a senior Justice Department lawyer to tour his private storage locker, according to half a dozen people familiar with the incident going forward. Excellent job, Justin News. While the cooperation was mostly arranged by his lawyers, Trump personally surprised the Department of Justice National Security Division prosecutor and 3 FBI agents who came to Mar-a-Lago on June 3rd, greeting them as they came to pick up small number of documents compliant with the subpoena. Boy, he is definitely hiding something. Trump signaled his full cooperation, telling the agents, "Look, whatever you need, let us know." According to 2 eyewitnesses, the federal team was surprised by the president's invitation, so they later decide to execute a court search warrant. I got to make sure I keep saying that right. To see the 6-foot by 10-foot storage locker where his clothes, shoes, documents, and mementos from his presidency were stored at the compound, given Trump's instruction, the president's lawyers complied and allowed to search by the FBI before the entourage left cordially. 5 days later, Department of Justice officials sent a letter to Trump's lawyer asking them to secure the storage locker with more. Of course, they violated that, right? No, the Secret Service installed a more robust security lock to comply. Around the same time, the Trump Organization, which owns Mar-a-Lago, received a request for surveillance video footage, and it was given to them. The more we learn, the more confusing this gets. Well, that's an understatement. George Washington University law professor Jonathan Turley told Fox News on Hannity, did they relay this history to the magistrate who executed the search warrant? That according to these sources, the president had cooperated? Did he know that? Or was he conflicted, as I showed you earlier? I mean, the idea that he was subject to a subpoena, complied with the subpoena, didn't challenge it, voluntarily showed to storage agents, followed their advice, secured it to meet their demands, turned over surveillance footage. All of that is hardly a basis for now saying we need to send in 40 FBI agents on a, no, you can't say that word. No, can't say that. On a court-authorized executed search warrant, he added. I mean, if the subpoena worked the first time, then presumably a second subpoena would work the second time if there was remaining documents, and that is the exact information everyone needs to know. There was already a working procedure, but they chose rather to go ahead and how dare you guys.
As to the issue of threats, I will say that I'm always concerned about violence and threats of violence against law enforcement, and that is a topic that I have been talking about frequently.
We're just going to stop Chris Wray there. Of course, he's worried about threats. But, Chris, you have another problem, don't you? This may be so abundantly obvious now that it appears even Merrick Garland is turning on Wray. You want me to explain a little bit more why? See, this is the part that got somebody suspended, so we're not going to talk about it here. And it's all in relation to this memo about a declassification of certain material that now takes center stage focus on what we're going to go into in part 2. I just wanted to get this again, the response off of yesterday's video, that people actually value real information, researched and referenced. Show you, my references are always at restrictedrepublic.com. Go over there. Click on the video underneath, normally 20 to 30, sometimes 40 reference points. Go ahead and research me. Go ahead and try to find something I did wrong. I'll more than happy correct it if I did. But more than likely that's not going to happen because the evidence is always there. You just need to know where to look, because these two statements coming out of the Department of Justice and FBI go to show there seems to be an intent that nobody has disclosed as of yet. Well, somebody did. And you saw what happened. Silence. Immediately. I love you all. I'm going to go kick over to part 2. I invite you, again, join me at Restricted Republic. This is only a sliver, a fraction of what we do on a daily basis. Until next time, Godspeed and God bless. Justus Knight, signing out.